Hi guys. I get an awful lot of messages and see an awful lot of questions in the Facebook groups about the use of flashcards for helping with 11 plus vocabulary. I've also noticed that a lot of the big players are now producing flashcards. So when I first started on this journey, be 8, 9 years ago with my daughter, there were very few flashcards. There was one particularly sort of outstanding brand, and when I say outstanding, it was just because there weren't that many. And I know the lady who produces those. We did buy them, and they were very good. Um, but what I found with the whole flashcard, and I absolutely advocate the use of flashcards, um, along with anything else from your tool belt of 11 plus resources. But the thing that I found was um, I started with my daughter making our own flashcards. Now, I appreciate parents that are working can't do that, but maybe at a weekend you could do one each day and then build up your own arsenal. And what we did was, and I kind of magpied a traffic light system from school. At school at the time, they had a red, amber, green traffic light system with the kids' behaviour. So I magpied that for our flashcards. Now, the flashcard I'm going to show you now is from 8 years ago, and hence it looks really quite ragged and rough. Let me just move that. And you can actually see where the definitions from the back have come through. And what I did with Josie, my daughter, was I used to just use like freezer bags, and I'd write a date on the freezer bag. And the way the traffic light system worked was we would write the word we wanted to learn on the card, and then we would mark it with red and pop it into a freezer bag, and then we'd write out the definition. And I really think that with Josie helping, when she wrote out the word and the definition, she kind of enjoyed making something. That's the kind of girl she is. But also it seemed to sink in. So this is one that I did for her, and then it was an example, and then she would make her own. We'd choose the words together, and we always chose words that were appearing most in the books she was using at the time for verbal reasoning. And when I say the books she was using at the time, I'm talking about the CGP books, the bond books that we use. And lots of parents also ask me now, should I learn all the words from your books? Now, my books contain thousands of definitions, and the words in there are not a to learn list. They are, again, more vocabulary in context, all under one roof. So if you read all three of my trilogies, all three books from my trilogy, you'd be exposed to maybe 3,000-4,000 definitions over and over again, or words rather. The definitions are at the bottom of the page. You don't need to refer to those unless you want to, and they're not a to learn list. But when parents ask me, well, what words should I choose? I would say don't always go for the long fancy words. Go for the words that you think your child might know but doesn't. So when my son came out of his 11 plus test 3 years later, 3 or 4, can't remember, I asked him, which I'm sure lots of parents are guilty of, how did you find the vocab? Obviously vocab was a big thing to us because we'd written the first novel by then between us. I asked Jude, I said, what was the vocab like? What didn't you know? And he said to me, Mum, what does barely and merely mean? And I was like, oh, maybe I'd concentrated on the fancy words too much, because I definitely included barely and merely in my novels, but he hadn't grasped their meaning. And what I'm trying to say is, no matter what you read on social media, no matter what any resource providers tell you, nobody knows what's going to come up in a test. We're all working from hindsight and hearsay, and anecdotal evidence of kids having come out of the test and sharing with parents and tutors the words they saw. So going back to my initial question and my initial statement is, I don't know which words are going to come up in the 11 plus, and nobody does. So, but I think if you cover the words that you're coming across in your current resources, so your CGPs, your AE, your Bond, your Collins, or whatever your tutor is using, I would go with the higher frequency words. So scatter your books all around the floor, see which are the usual suspects, which words are coming up most, and go for those. And obviously read, and read, because that's where you'll be exposed to the vocabulary. And if you want books with a built-in dictionary on the page, then obviously the Cadwalla de Quest are those. But read anything and everything. So going back to flashcards, the system I used was we would write a word down. When she didn't know it, we'd put the red traffic light on it. We'd learn it, and we learnt it by using my 5 a day. So we'd use the word over and over and over again in our daily conversation in any way we could, silly sentence, serious sentences, until it stuck. Then we'd pop it in the bag with a date on it. Then we'd revisit it, and if she knew it, then we would put a green light on it. If she didn't know it, she would put an amber on it. We'd pop it back literally into a freezer bag with a date on it, and we'd revisit it again. So we'd probably leave it a week apart, or maybe more, I can't remember exactly. But only when she really knew the meaning of the word did it get the green dot. And the other thing that she would love doing as well was testing me. So, because these kids are really young. Now, if I asked her to test me on something, she'd laugh, because she's nearly 17. But, she really enjoyed it. And again, parents, if you haven't got the time to do this, don't feel guilty, but maybe you could do it at the weekend. Just choose one of the words from that usual suspect of words that keeps cropping up over and over, and give it a go, because you might find that it really helps. And, a lot of people come to me and say that they really struggle with vocabulary with boys because they're not, they're not such avid readers. Then, maybe your boys will enjoy testing you as well, or testing dad. And again, use them in your 5 words a day. And even if you can't do 5 words a day, 1 word a day is better than nothing. So I hope that helps. And if you've got any questions, just ask. Bye.